Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews. And today we're giving you guys an album review celebrating 25 years of the self-titled album from Slipknot. So as you can see, we're dressed for the occasion, and you know, this is a really big, I guess, anniversary review to do as part of our series. It's a big deal, so
yeah.
What do you want to talk about? Let's start it off, Vile. What are your thoughts on the self-titled album from Slipknot?
Well, I think just to get this out of the gate, like Slipknot's a pretty big band for both of us. As you can see, we're wearing masks. This is not the first time we've covered Slipknot on the channel. In the other reviews, we had masks as well. I mean, it's clear that we're pretty big Slipknot fans, right? We have been for a very long time. Me since basically childhood, right? When this album came out, that was, you know, a turning point for me, like a lot of people. So, I guess the best way to start is at the beginning, the intro track.
Oh, the intro track.
So the intro track is 742617000027, and
what is that number?
That number is the barcode for Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, which was the album that came out before this one, before Slipknot blew up, basically.
Yeah.
Different band members, mostly the same, but different vocalists and stuff like that. Another interesting thing about this track is if you add all the numbers together, it equals 36, which is the length of the track, which is kind of cool. So what is this track for? What does it do? Well, this track prepares the listener for some weird shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of gives you a sense of psychosis. And one thing they do in this track that actually becomes kind of a characteristic of the album is they play around a lot with the left and right channels. It bounces from left to right to left to right. And for me as a listener, this is something that's always given me a sense of like I said, psychosis or multiple personality disorder, some type of mental delusion, right?
Yeah.
Where it's really playing with your mind and really making you kind of question reality. And I think it really does a good job setting up the album because the album is full of stuff that just sounds crazy, right?
Yeah,
and that's kind of the feeling.
Crazy is a really good descriptor for it. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's really off-putting, like there's something going on. It's just the right length for it as well.
Yeah.
And it's also effective as a live opener when you know what to expect. And even when you're listening, you know what to expect. You're like, this is it. The storm is coming.
Yeah. And then obviously it goes into Sick, right? Which just the energy, the percussion, the riffs, the lyrics, everything about this song just hits the right spot. It's just on point all over the place. My favorite part of the song is the breakdown. You can't kill me because I'm already inside you. That whole section just throws down so hard, and I can't get enough of it. It's just been a song I've loved forever, and as an opening song, not opening track, opening song, I think it just kicks this album off with a bang.
For sure.
And it's just, it's hard not to be just completely enveloped from the get-go with this song.
And then immediately after, you're treated to a song like Eyeless, which I think it does a really good job at introducing more elements of what this band is about because it starts with Sid scratching and playing that jungle beat. So you're thinking, oh, what the hell? This album's got some of this in there too? Like, what am I in for? Eyeless picks up right where Sick left off, and it's got the energy. Fucking love this song. And I think just, honestly, the first chunk of this album, from Sick all the way through Spit It Out, is just like, wow, what the fuck? The energy of all these songs is through the roof. And I think that, and obviously it encompasses this entire album, the energy. I think this album was the advent of something new for nu metal.
Yeah.
Because you look at what was popular at the time in terms of the nu metal genre, which was practically in full swing at this point in 1999. The most popular bands are ones by the likes of like Korn and Limp Bizkit.
And Disturbed, I would say, is up there.
Disturbed up there. I mean, the first album came out in 2000, so they weren't quite there yet.
Right.
But I think with bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit, they were more groove-centered.
Yeah.
And they were more focused on the hip-hop side of what nu metal is, because nu metal takes a lot of influence from hip-hop. You can even hear that on this album as well.
There's lots of hip-hop influence on this for sure.
But what Slipknot did with this record is they turned up the speed and they turned up the aggression to 11. And they showed the world that there is a different side to nu metal they have not seen yet.
Yeah.
And I think a track like Sick, going into a track like Eyeless, is the perfect example of like, wow, this is something else. These guys are about something else.
Yeah.
And I think that they really made a statement with this album being the way it was at the time it was released.
Well, even tracks like I like the drum intro of Eyeless. I think that's one of the best
Amazing
drum intros
drum
to come
intro.
out of the new metal scene.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I also think
Iconic.
it's iconic. Good word. I think that's one of the many reasons why Slipknot blew up the way they did. Because when people heard that and they heard just the drum track through the song in general, they went, "Holy fuck, this guy's insane!
Yeah.
Who plays like this? Nobody else plays like this." Now, a lot of people didn't really realize that there was other percussion happening at the same time. So you have this, triforce basically of percussionists playing and creating this big full sound that you've never heard before. On top of that, you have samples and DJs and all these things that other bands just don't have. So you're getting something so unique and so fresh with a lot of talent behind it. It was just a force to be reckoned with. So let's go to the next song. Let's just go track by track. Wait and Bleed.
Wait and Bleed. Now this one blew up because it did have a video.
It had a video.
Also a single, and I think the reason why it really caught a lot of people, on top of it being a single as such, is because it has this melodic hook.
The melodic vocal harmony, yeah. Not
And
harmony, but hook, yeah.
When it comes to that, I think it's done well, and what also really helps is that it's like, you don't hear it constantly all the time, that kind of hook on this album.
Right.
So when you do hear it, it feels special, it feels notable, and it feels anthemic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not only a testament to this song, but I think the whole album is full of those kinds of moments that you want to just scream at the sky with this album going.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Wait and Bleed, as tried and true of a song that it is the way Joey plays along with the chorus. He follows the melody with his toms, which I
Yeah.
think is really cool. It's subtle things like that that can really make or break a song, or not even break it, but make it stand out, even in a subconscious kind of way. We're not even really sure what's going on. It just sounds really good. And then you take the time to pick it apart. And you really go, wow, that's some interesting stuff going on there, really creative stuff. So, I mean, as far as their first, it was like their first official single, I think. Spit It Out was like their first song they released to get the album out there.
Which also had a video.
But this was the first one that kind of blew the band up, as far as I know.
Yeah. And another thing on Wait and Bleed is I really love the bridge riff that happens there.
Yeah.
After that second chorus, super duper awesome. I remember when I was first getting into this band, I hadn't really gotten super duper familiar with everything yet, and I saw a clip of them. This is a self-titled era clip of them all walking, and it plays that part of the song. I'm like, fuck, what was that?
Yeah.
I need to hear that again. And that was before I was, as familiar as I am now, so I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, dude, that riff, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Super duper cool, and I still love it to this day.
So, as for Surfacing, track number 5, this was the first song I heard from this album. So this was my introduction to Slipknot, was Surfacing. What a way to be introduced, mind you.
Yeah.
So this is the first song on the album, to my knowledge, that actually does that thing playing around with the left and right channel. So it starts off with the count-in on the left channel on the hi-hat, and then the guitar intro riff kicks in on the right channel, and then the main riff comes back in on the left channel. So it kind of does this back and forth thing at the beginning, and then it's just one hell of a song. It's just crazy. I like the fact that Chris is playing with his sticks on the kegs, right? You get a little bit of that play going on there with the rest of the percussion happening as well. Mick's riffs just ring like a nightmare-induced emergency siren just through the whole song, basically. And it just gives you this feeling of this fight or flight almost, right?
Yeah.
Just really cool. Paul, the bass line leading into the bridge.
So good. I was
So
going to bring
good.
that up. So
Yeah,
good.
I'm not surprised at all you were gonna bring that up. It's just such a good fucking song. And you mentioned the word anthemic earlier. This is one of those ones that you're just
that
gonna
chorus,
belt it out.
Everyone. You always are. It's just like that. And I think, like I said, and it's a constant theme, this album is full of that, and it gets you going. I think with this song, it's also, a crank up to 11 kind of song. And it's so many of these songs are so good live. There's a reason why they're always going to play Surfacing, because of how anthemic it is in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just another sick song.
Spit It Out, I mean...
Oh, this one has a special place in my heart. I remember when I first got into this band, like, I was dedicated to learning, like, all the lyrics and be able to, like, sing the whole thing. Because I think this is the first song that really, really shows how much, like, the hip-hop influence that this album has.
Yeah.
Because Corey is rapping.
He raps, he does cleans, he does harshes. He kind of does the trifecta on this song,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Another cool thing about this song is Craig actually has a little sample solo leading into the bridge of the song, which is something that I actually never really caught before. Like, I knew it was there, but until I was reviewing the album and paying really close attention, I never realized that he actually has like a little solo part there. At least that's what I think it is. You never really know. Sometimes, you know, I could be wrong, but that's what it sounded like to me.
Speaking of samples, I remember watching a video showing all the sources for the samples from the album, and when you watch that stuff and listen to that and hear them on the album, you pick them out.
Yeah.
Like the near the end of Surfacing, there's like an "oh no" that you can hear near the end. I guess another thing to mention, and this goes throughout the album, is once you really pay attention to the auxiliary percussion, you can really clearly hear it. And this goes outside of the beer keg. When you really hear, and Surfacing's a good example of that, when the song is starting, you can hear those drums come in.
Yeah.
You can hear them in Sick. There are other songs you can hear them in. And it adds another level. And if you don't notice them, like once you start to notice them, you can appreciate it, but it does add a dimension that you would notice if they were taken away. Exactly, it's layering.
Yeah. All right, so one thing I'm going to mention that I guess we should have mentioned at the beginning is we're reviewing the true track list of the album.
Yes, the original
Lim Nursery and Purity. Me Inside is not part of this review.
No.
Okay, so just to put that out there. Anyways, so after Spit It Out is Tattered and Torn.
Tattered and Torn.
So this, for me, is where the album perhaps starts falling apart a little bit. I think Tattered and Torn is... I might get flack for saying this, but I think it's just an annoying track. I think it feels like an interlude for like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Then it kind of turns into what kind of feels like part of a song. And then it's just still kind of annoying. I prefer the Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat version of this song. I feel like it's more cohesive, it's cleaner sounding. It just feels like a better song. I feel like this is just a stain on this album, and that's unfortunate to say. So I feel like this was a not a missed opportunity, but a bad judgment call to put this on, re-record it and put this on there.
Yeah,
I think it's a bad song.
Unfortunately, I'm of the same opinion. Whenever this song came on, when I was listening to it, when I first got into it, it was just kind of like annoying with just the kind of siren sound going on constantly.
Yeah.
If there's one thing about this song I can praise, is its structure. There's no verse, there's no chorus, there's nothing. It just goes.
Yeah.
And it kind of like gets a bit crazier near the end.
I would say that's more of a con than a pro, but that's just me.
It makes it a unique composition in that regard, you know?
Fair,
it's
fair.
like, oh wow, it's just kind of through composed like that. Like that's just unlike anything else the album has done so far. And it's just a very non-standard thing in general. So it makes it unique that way, but it always kind of bugs me, and I usually tend to skip that song, but the way it transitions into Frail Limb Nursery is great. The fact that it goes, kind of explodes near the end, and then you start hearing the sound effects. Bleeds into Frail Limb Nursery, which was taken, like this interlude track was taken, some of the sounds from it were taken as excerpts from video for this story found on a website about a girl named Purity Knight who was buried in a box, tortured, and whatnot. And that's also what the song Purity is about. That's
right.
So I believe the band was afraid of getting, I don't know about copyright or getting kind of like sued over using that audio. That's why in future pressings,
they pulled those songs.
They pulled both of those songs and they recorded a song called Me Inside, put that in its place.
Yeah.
But Frail Limb Nursery, with the samples that it uses, is so eerie and just that constantly going throughout the track. And then one of my favorite transitions of all time happens, where you start hearing just Joey and Paul playing the groove, just bass and drums, and they lead right into the drop of Purity, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Frail Limb Nursery, I mean, it's an interlude track as well. I think they could have taken Tattered and Torn out. Frail Limb Nursery, is another one of those tracks that's not really entertaining per se, but it serves a purpose because it sets up Purity so well.
Yeah.
So kudos to it just for doing that. But yeah, Purity. Purity is a song where I remember back in the day when this album was new and hot and everything like that, everybody's talking about their favorite track. Oh, Sick, oh, Surfacing, oh, Eyeless, oh, this or that. I'm the odd one out going, you guys are sleeping on Purity. Don't sleep on Purity. What a fucking song Purity is. And it's just, the drum beat is just so sick. There's this ominous chant or something kind of happening subtly in the background of this like melodic chorus, and it gives it such a dark tone. It's just got this overall brooding atmosphere to it. Just such a really good song. Sid does some scratching on the song that almost in a way provides almost like a lead riff in a way, which I thought was really cool. That's during like a couple sections of the song, not through the whole thing, but just really good song, really well written. It just evokes emotion. It really does.
Yeah.
More so than a lot of the other songs, and in a different way than the other songs too.
Yeah, you know, I always thought this song was cool, but listening to it more recently, I realized this is one of the absolute best songs on the album, and as Vile said, do not sleep on this song. It's incredible.
So after that, we have Liberate. This is a song that again, plays with the left. It starts in the right channel and then picks up in the left afterwards. This is another song that I think is a weak spot on the album. I know a lot of people like Liberate. Again, I'm gonna get flack for anything I say I don't like. But that's the name of the game, right? A lot of people really love this album and hold it near and dear to their hearts, and I do too. But I don't think everything on here is an ace, right? Mm-hmm. I think Liberate's probably one of the weaker songs. It's probably the weakest song that's not Tattered and Torn, because I don't really even consider that a song. That to me is just an extended interlude. Yeah, I really don't have much else to say about it, to be honest.
Well, I think Liberate is a really good example of one of my favorite aspects of this album, is that it makes you jump. Like, I think, imagine just the grooves on this album, every single one. Imagine it's 1999, you're at a show. Everything they do, you're jumping to it, you're grooving, you're dancing, you're going, yeah, you're headbanging. I feel like that's a good example of that. Like, just imagining the main riff, you're jumping to that. And that's what I found. Every time a song like that would come on, I'd be like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very consistent thing throughout this album.
Yeah. It is what it is. Prosthetics.
Prosthetics.
So again, starts in the right channel, and then it continues in both channels. Towards the end of the album, they do this a lot. So this song, I think, is a great track. I think, for me, this song was almost like a prelude to the types of stuff we were going to hear later on in their career. In the sense that it comes in like a very unsettling, with a sense of paranoia. The vocals present this somber tone, and it eventually turns into like aggressive, screaming chaos. And later on in their discography, you saw similar traits in songs like Vermilion, The Virus of Life, Gehenna, these type of songs that have that kind of vibe.
You're right.
So I feel like this song was a prelude to stuff that was gonna come in the future. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people really caught or realized that when they say, oh, this album, they don't sound like old Slipknot anymore. If you really look for it, if you really pay attention, old Slipknot sounds like new stuff as well. Like there's parallels and comparisons to be made with a lot of the stuff there. So I think that's a good song. I think Prosthetics is good. That's just my biggest takeaway from it, is that it was kind of like an omen.
Yeah, Prosthetics is a really eerie kind of song, and I always thought it was a bit slept on, because I'm like, this song is sick in the way that it grows, the way that it kind of leads with that keg as well, the rhythm on the keg, and I always thought that was really, really cool. And then it slowly ushers in this groove and then picks up more and more and more and more, and it gets super intense by the end, and I think that's super duper awesome. And I think, the only other song in this album that really is comparable in terms of the vibe is Scissors, but we're not there yet.
The next song, though, is No Life. We're on track number 12. So this one now starts in the left channel. We had two to start in the right channel. Now this one starts in the left channel. To me, sonically, this sounds like a spiritual successor to Spit It Out. Because you got similar kind of vibes in the music. You got Corey rapping on this one with harshes and melodic cleans. I just think it's just not the strongest song either, but I do think that it has a place on the album.
Yeah, I feel similar to this song that I do to Liberate, is that it's a very jumpy song,
Yeah.
And that the riff is super duper exciting and fun. It's like when you got the riff going on, which is another anthemic riff, you're just jumping along to it like, yeah, this is super awesome, and it just feels like a big party.
Yeah. Diluted is next. This one starts in the right channel. So we're going back and forth, back and forth.
Oh man.
So you mentioned earlier that the first kind of half of the album is like really, really strong. I think Diluted could belong in that first half. This is the strongest song on the second half of the album. I love this background scream that happens during the chorus. Subtle but effective. Really love that. The vocals are kind of like a spoken soliloquy that kind of just morph into these screams.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning with like this schizophrenic kind of, you know, psychotic episode kind of thing. And the song just really has a really sick bounce to it with a boots pants kind of rhythm. And it's just a really fucking good song. And I think that I like the placement on the album because it definitely helps the second half of the album give it some strength. But yeah, it's just Diluted is fucking awesome.
And especially considering like the subject matter of that song, it really like lays heavy when you understand what it's about. And essentially the rough times for Corey, essentially when he was younger, it's brutal that way. So when you really think about it, it's like, man, this is just not a happy song, but a great one nonetheless.
Yeah.
So Only One is
Only
up
One.
next. Now this song, you said that No Life is kind of like the spiritual successor to Spit It Out. I would argue that Only One is because it also has
rapping.
Rapping,
Yep.
which is faster with more words. It's literally harder to do than Spit It Out.
Yeah.
But still, it's another one that's a lot of fun. Kind of starts with this like theremin sound, and it's like, what the hell is that? That's crazy. And I think it's another great one.
Yeah, for me, Only One, unfortunately, it falls into the same kind of pile as Liberate, where it's like a decent song, but it's one of the weaker ones on the album. I think Corey's rapping on this song is what brings the song down. It doesn't actually elevate it like it does on the other tracks where he's rapping. The saving grace for the song is the chorus. It's just so pure in its raw aggression. Mm-hmm. And I also like there's a little drum solo that happens before the outro, which is really awesome. So there is some redeemable qualities to this song. I just the rapping on this one just doesn't quite do it for me. It kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I mean, you can't win them all. So it is what it is.
There's also this one little growl that Corey does, not like an actual like death growl, but like before the end, just before he fucking love that. And it's one of the small things of this album that really, really hits, right?
That's right.
So here we are now at Scissors.
Scissors, technically last track of the album.
Yeah.
I mean, Eeyore's at the end, but it's a hidden track at the end of Scissors.
Fans don't really do that anymore. And that's why we're including Eeyore as part of this review, because it's not a bonus track. No. It was tacked on to the end of Scissors. Scissors would end, you'd hear nothing for a bit, and then Eeyore would start as a part of that track. So it was part of the original album experience. So that's why Get This is not part of this review. Awesome song, but it is a bonus track.
Yeah. So Scissors, it's kind of a weird song. It's a long song. It's about 8-9 minutes long, something like that. In a way, it's kind of like Tattered and Torn, in the sense that it's kind of got a lot of experimental type of stuff that, unless it's under a specific circumstance, it's not really adding a lot of value to the album. Like if you're listening to this album as a whole and you're going through the whole experience, Scissors has a place. Mm-hmm. But it's very rare that you're gonna have somebody just put on Scissors randomly and crank it, right? There's a reason why Scissors is not in the set list. They haven't played this song in 24 years, okay?
I mean, for the 25th anniversary, you think they're gonna probably pull it out?
I think they're gonna pull it out. I think they will. But as of right now, they haven't played it in 24 years. So it's like, there's a reason for that. It's because it just doesn't gel well as a full song. Now there is good stuff about this. Number one, the whole song is still well put together. It's still well performed, and it's just poetic in its nature. Chaotically poetic, but it's poetic. The real meat and potatoes doesn't start till about 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the song. And it's basically, you get an 8.5 minute long schizophrenic episode and then all of a sudden you have Eeyore at the end. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and then Eeyore on its own is awesome, but the fact that it's attached to Scissors, I think hurts it a bit. I don't think Scissors is a bad track. I think it takes a lot of listens to really appreciate it.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you're gonna listen to this album front to back, by the time you get to Scissors, you're like, whoa, where the hell am I? You're put in a different place. Like, we went through all this stuff together. Here we are at the final level.
Yeah.
And it's a different experience. And then the way that it grows up into the chaotic nature of the end of the song is awesome. And I feel like the song kind of has false endings. You think, oh, that's gotta be it. And then it keeps going even more. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then by the end, you're just like totally spent. Like, wow, that was crazy. And then Eeyore starts. It's like, what? There's more?
Eeyore starts in the right channel, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. What channel does Scissors start in?
Both.
It starts with like, it starts with like this like sandpaper kind of sounding.
It's not sandpaper. It's actually Chris rubbing on. There's a thing on the keg. I don't know what it is, but it's actually rubbing his drumstick on it.
Oh, okay.
That whole intro is Chris.
Yeah. And the small thing about Scissors I like is when the song's kicking in, like before the first verse, you hear a zipper. I love that zipper. Just
I'm not sure if I ever caught that part, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
that's what you get by having 9 members in a band.
Yeah, and especially with a turntable guy and a sampler, like you're gonna get a lot of depth that way, right? Like you didn't even know that. Further listens, you'll notice that. And this album's 25 years old.
I think the best part of Scissors though is there's like this 50-second portion where Joey's just going ham on the drums and Corey's screaming his head off about wanting to die.
Yeah!
Like that whole part is just like, holy fuck, this is intense. Like really, really intense.
And the song builds up to that moment.
Builds up to that part. So
Eeyore,
yeah, which is attached to Scissors. It's not its own track, but a lot of people do consider it its own track.
Yeah, and
if you listen to the album on Spotify, it's its own track.
It is its own track.
Yeah.
And they've played it live as its own track, of course.
That's right. So, but as for the purpose of this review, I personally tied it to, like, it's track number 15 for me. Scissors / Eeyore.
Yeah.
Right? So, with that said, we've gone through all the tracks. I don't know, overall thoughts?
I mean, like I said, I feel like this album was a really big statement for the genre, and I think no one was really doing stuff like this before, and it really changed the game. And I think we have a lot of musicians, a lot of artists today making music that was inspired by this album.
Yes.
These people grew up listening to Slipknot, they grew up listening to this album and Iowa and the stuff that came after. That inspired them, and now they're making music today that embodies that. And we're seeing a new metal resurgence today, especially combined with other genres, all taking heavy inspiration from this band and even this specific album. I also think that this album, it was a statement for the band. It was we're here, it's time. I'm angry, but it's like a crazy party almost. You're jumping, it's crazy, the energy's there, here we are.
Yeah.
You get to an album like Iowa, the game has changed. They ramped everything from this album up, but it changed. It doesn't feel like the crazy grand opening party. It feels like a dark, angrier, more kind of secluded thing. Everything's ramped up to 11. You got a song like Scissors on this album. The title track of Iowa is the same deal, but multiplied.
Yeah.
So it's like they took the foundation that this album laid and multiplied that.
Yeah.
So, some people will prefer Iowa as their favorite. Some people will prefer this one, and it makes sense for either case, right? I mean, of course, your opinions are own.
Yeah.
But I can see why a lot of fans gravitate towards this or they gravitate towards Iowa, because they're both kind of like part of the same experience. It's just you have this base and then an evolution of that. So I feel like this album really made a statement, has its own sound in the band's discography. Like, it was the arrival.
I think you made a good point too when you said a lot of bands grew up listening to this album and it kind of shaped kind of the future of certain genres of metal. But I think there's another interesting thing where bands that existed before that listened to this album and went, holy shit, is this, like, look at Metallica, for example. I personally think the reason Saint Anger sounds the way it does is because they took inspiration from this album. Namely, obviously, the snare sound being kind of like he's hitting a garbage can. Well, why does it sound like that? Maybe because he heard Slipknot and he heard them hitting the kegs.
Hitting a beer
didn't
keg.
really realize what he was hearing. He
Make
just
my
heard this
snare sound like that.
He heard this metallic kind of sound in the snare and thought, I'm going to replicate that, right? So Saint Anger's considered a new metal album by a lot of people, right? So you got to think the influence goes backwards too. It's not just bands that came after that. Bands that came before that heard this and went, holy shit, we got to do something because this is the stuff that's taking over right now, right? I also think there's a missed, not really missed, but there's a factor that I think this album brings to the table that a lot of new metal bands did that doesn't get talked about a lot when people are talking about new metal. A lot of people talk about things like the rapping and the different guitar riffs and things like that. But this whole like persona of being crazy really kind of stemmed out from this. If you look at bands like Cold Chamber, Mudvayne, Korn, Disturbed, that portion, and other bands too, but that portion of the new metal scene was all about like, I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm local. Like I'm disturbed. I'm, you know, exactly, right? But then you have kind of a flip side of the coin where you have bands like System of a Down, for example. They're crazy too, but they're more like kooky.
Yeah.
Right? They're not like secret, quiet killer.
Like
they're like kooky crazy.
System is like the crazy guy on the street who's yelling about conspiracy theories.
Exactly. And Slipknot's the mental asylum, like wrapped up in a straitjacket kind of guy. And I feel like this album as a whole really, really drives that home and does a good job at it.
Well, I guess with that being said, shall we get to rating this album?
Let's rate the album. So, through and through, this album is pretty solid. I grew up with it. It shaped me as a metalhead in a lot of ways. It means a lot to me. Just, you know, throughout my life and all that stuff, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. But it's not a perfect album. It's got flaws. It's got certain songs on here that I wish weren't there. It's, I'm just gonna say this. It's getting a toe tag from me, but I'm gonna say it's a barely getting a toe tag.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately. And here's the thing, like, when we started, like, we've been on this channel for what, 6 years now? Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay? And I've kind of always just kind of went with my gut when I'm scoring albums. But this year, I started a new scoring method for reviewing albums. And that's basically scoring each track individually and then giving the track an average, like a total score based on the tracks. This album barely got a toe tag.
Wow.
Barely got a toe tag. And that's just me being honest with each track. So it's getting a toe tag from me, but it's yeah.
Well,
and that surprised me.
Yeah.
That actually surprised me a lot. So I just want to be honest about that though.
Well, I mean, you know, this album for me through and through is great. I loved it to death when I first heard it. Spun it so many times, even listening to it more recently, loved it to death. And I think like almost the entire album is just phenomenal. I adopted a similar scoring method, like we're kind of doing the same thing right now. And this album, like, passed with flying colors. It gets my toe tag for sure. Meaning that Slipknot is the very first band on our channel to have 3 albums on our 2 toe tags list.
Nice.
So congratulations to Slipknot, especially for an album celebrating its 25th anniversary to get 2 toe tags.
And
what an accomplishment.
If you're interested, it was Iowa and We Are Not Your Kind are the other 2 albums that appeared on the toe tag list as well. And we reviewed both those albums. You can check out both those reviews as well.
Yes, you can. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and comment. Tell us in the comments below, what is your favorite memory you have relating to this album? It could be a time you listened to it, a concert you went to, you know, someone you met that was into this album. What is your favorite memory relating to the self-titled Slipknot album? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
We'll see you guys later.